everyone, and welcome to this Solventure webinar. My name is Jasper van Rintergem. I'm account manager here at Solventure. I already see a lot of new names on the attendee list, but also a lot of names of customers which are familiar to me, so that makes me very happy. One of those customers is here today. I'm sitting here together with Lucio Martin Matarranz from Ontex Group. Lucio is the Senior Group Supply Chain Analyst from Ontex, and he'll be sharing his S&OP journey and project experiences with Solventure later on. So on the agenda for today, a short brief introduction on Solventure and Ontex, of course, as a company. Then Lucio will explain how S&OP process is going at Ontex. He will also elaborate on the supply chain challenges they have and the business complexity they face in their market. We'll go then deeper into the main topic of today, which is RCCP, or Rought Cut Capacity Planning, and how that is then translated, of course, to raw materials planning, a long-term raw materials plan for Ontex. We'll go on with how to align the financial and operational forecast and why it is important to have a long-term demand plan. To conclude, we discuss the impact Arkieva has on Ontex as an organization and the results, and what is foreseen as next steps in this S&OP journey together between Solventure and Ontex. So, brief introduction on Solventure. Most of you already know Solventure quite a long time. So we're all about turning the supply chain of our customers into a competitive edge. I think Lucio can confirm that our projects go beyond the supply chain department and actually affect the whole company. We do that via a holistic approach, which is a bit unique in the IT software market, by combining people, processes first, and then tooling and analytics second. What is strategy-driven S&OP for us? Well, it's these 6 building blocks, let's say, that you see in there. And today we will focus more on the 5th, supply planning, under which RCCP takes place. We do a lot of different types of projects with our customers. For example, strategic benchmarking, where we help them to set strategic KPIs, how to benchmark them in their market against their competitors. Depends on your strategy, so your targets should be aligned with your strategy. Our Solventure Academy is the go-to party if you want to create awareness around a certain topic, or if you want to increase the supply chain and S&OP maturity of your organization. Of course, we have software. We work with Arkieva software. Arkieva is a best-of-breed software suite covering the end-to-end supply chain and is recognized by Gartner. So, for example, Ontex, who use supply planning and demand planning, it's all in the same environment, the same Arkieva platform, which is fully integrated. In these modern times, data is very important also for the larger part of our projects, let's say. So at Solventure, we have invested heavily in data integration. We have developed here in-house our own data connector, and we have a dedicated separate data integration team to ensure seamless data integration is installed. Furthermore, we provide our clients with advanced analytics, such as, for example, live or leading indicator forecasting, which basically is a platform where you can have access to thousands of external indicators, macroeconomic, weather, all that kind of stuff, to enrich your forecast and create a better sales forecast. And finally, we also have a lot of MEIO expertise here at Solventure with multiple PhD holders. So they're ready to calculate the safety stocks and lot sizes of our clients from a multi-echelon point of view. Now, of course, all these projects all these different types of projects actually have the same goal, and that is balancing the supply chain triangle of service, cash, and cost. And by doing this, we try to maximize your company's ROCE, or return on capital employed. Here you see some of our customers. You will notice that we work in different industries, from chemical to process, discrete, high-tech, food and beverage, and CPG. One of those CPG customers is here today with us, Ontex, and we're very pleased that they want to share their experiences with us and elaborate on the work they've been doing within the supply chain department. So again, a warm welcome to Lucio, and I think the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much. So, okay. Yes. So, yes. First, before I introduce, I hope that with so many people, I am very pleased that quite some people has joined the webinar. So I hope I can fulfill all the expectations of everyone which is in the webinar. First, I'm going to give a quick introduction of the company, so which really helps you to understand the complexity that we are managing. So here, then, so as you can see in this slide, we have a revenue in 2018 of 2.3 billions. The growth of Ontex has been tremendous over the past years. So as you can see, in 2013 we were at 1.5, and now we are at 2.3. So it's really a lot of growth, a lot of complexity, very successful years. So the journey continues, and so yeah, we have 19 production facilities. As you can see in the map, we are all over the world. We have 29 sales offices. So in countries where we don't have factories, but we have sales. We have 7 R&D centers. Most of them are located in Europe, but we also have some others like in Mexico or in Brazil. We reached over 11,000 employees. This when I joined Ontex 8 years ago, it was half of it. So I am impressed to see this number growing up. And we have over 30 brands. This number has been increased a lot. So I will explain you why in the next slides. So here I will give you a bit of a view of the history of Ontex. So Ontex started it in 1979 in Belgium, in Buggenhout. And then it has been growing over the past years, mainly by acquisition. So we have been acquiring new factories. So in 2006, we have a factory of Algeria, China, and Germany. Then we have also some sales offices in ID Medica in Germany. In 2011, we acquired another factory in France. Then 2013, we acquired another factory in Russia, Australia, and Pakistan. In 2013, another factory in Italy. So really, as you can see, and then in the 2014, we went public. So we got listed in the Euronext. So that is very, very important now, how the company is being held, because now it's public, it's not private anymore. 2016, we acquired the Mabe Group in Mexico, a huge business with 2 big factories. And in 2017, we acquired also a big company in Brazil. So as you can see, it has been a big growth in the past years, and all mainly coming from acquisitions, which I will explain you when you grow by acquisition, how the complexity needs to be managed. And now, at this moment, because of the growth in the past year has been so high, this year we launched a new program, the Transformation to Grow program, which has an influence in all of our operations, and of course also in our supply planning, and I will explain you later how. So here I would like to show you a little bit of the diversity of our business. So we operate in all over the world, as I said. Still, our core business is still in Western Europe, but this is flattened by other continents, like for instance the Americas. When we acquired the businesses in Mexico and Brazil, yeah, this Western Europe used to be much higher, but now due to the new acquisition is more flattened. Then our customer base, this is an important one because we don't have like 2 or 3 customers which are driving all of our capacity. Now we have really customers all over the place, which, as you can imagine, gives us a lot of complexity, a lot of different articles that we really have to manage. Then we are working on 3 main categories, which are the baby care, the fem care, and the adult care. So the biggest one by far is the baby care, and followed by the adult care and the feminine care. So maybe I just realized I'm talking too much about figures, but Ontex is making hygienic products, which are disposable products, and these are the ones baby, adult, and feminine. So we are talking about disposable products. And then the last one that if I showed you the slide 3 years ago, would have been very different because Ontex used to be focused on the retail brands. We used to be at 70% and only 30% in the Ontex brands. But by the new acquisition, especially in Latin America and in Italy for healthcare, this has been almost half. So, which is also leading to another type of complexity, another type of business in terms of supply planning, demand planning. So that's why we need to be open for a different way of doing planning. And I will show you also later how. All right. So now we go more to the interesting parts for the conference call. So here I will show you a little bit of the S&OP journey that Ontex had. So as I already said, yeah, when you have new acquisitions, the main complexity that you have is that they work in their own system. It takes a lot of time to get them integrated, and usually where a company focuses on is more on the financial part and on the commercial part. So always the supply part and the demand part is really put it not as a high priority. Obviously, I understand that. So we need to find an alternative how to manage that, because in the past, when we had acquisitions, we always integrated them into SAP, and then from there that was easy because everything was in one system. But in this case, because the amount of acquisitions we made over the past years, we didn't have enough resources internally to switch them to SAP. But of course, we wanted to see all of those figures for those facilities, although they were not in SAP. So we needed to find something that was really giving us a solution to see everything in one tool, right? Then another one was the supply planning. Before we were doing a lot of ad hoc offline scenario management, very disconnected from the divisional S&OP plans. And now we really know where the figures are. We only have one single point of truth. And this is really enabling us to have a very fast decision process. We know what are the figures, and sounds very easy. Well, you just need figures and you just make something, but you can't imagine the nightmares we had in the past when we need to ask information to whoever, and was always not the right information if you were asking to this, to that. So it brings a lot of advantages to have all consolidated it, right? Then another one, the financial integration. Before we didn't have anything, so we were really starting from scratch. It was always volume based, but now in the new S&OP process, we have top line plans. We can really see the bottom line impact, how is affecting to our working capital, because if we need to make certain decisions about inventories, or when we are talking about a financial forecast or operational forecast, it's very important that the finance part is also in the S&OP part, because at the end of the day, they are both coming together, and if you are working disconnected, you will not come to the right conclusions as we had in the past. The long-term view, this one, again, we were not very professional on this one. We didn't really work. We were not working very long term. We were just not asking the business to provide, to make some efforts on that one. But now, since we have a new process, new tools, which are enabling us to make this possible, now there is a much more focus on that. So we really have always a demand of 18 months, and where you can also reflect not only the confirmed demand, but also all the gains, losses, opportunities, and threats. So you can really play with the tool, and that is very important for us when we go to the S&OP meetings, because that is our forum to make decisions. So it's important that we really show, okay, what if I get this one or get that one? So some decisions have to be made. And yeah, the last one, yeah, this is basically the summary of what I said before. Yeah, when you're working with Excel, fine, very nice tool, very flexible, but at the end it's very static, and you don't have the latest picture. You always need to make the file. So we need to have very agile tool, dynamic, which are really enabling us to do a much better planning, which we chose Arkieva for, right? So this is our S&OP process. I believe that for most of you, this is nothing new that you are not doing today. But anyway, I will drive you through. Our S&OP process is a monthly process. Obviously, we start with the demand part. We review the forecast. We do it in the first 2 weeks. Then all this data is plugged into the supply. So where we do the RCCP, and there, based on all the issues that might pop up, or all those things, they are brought to the divisional S&OPs, to our decision forum. And then when some of those decisions cannot be solved in the divisional S&OP, these ones are brought into the enterprise S&OP, which a meeting at the C level. So the CEO is leading this meeting. So there, all the cross-divisional issues are being raised, and that is really a high level, but it is important. Although it sounds like a high level, yeah, it's really a bottom up. So you really need to have all your data if you want to make the right decisions. So that's very important for us to have those tools. Otherwise, I cannot imagine to have an enterprise S&OP without having a very dynamic tool to play with all the scenarios and do all the things that we do today. So as I said, the escalation process, we do, and I will explain later, we do regular RCCP meetings with our local plans together with the group planning department. That there we try to solve most of the problems, but then of course, if we cannot, if we need to move production, we need to, we bring those topics into divisional S&OPs, but very, very specific topics, and really, even we almost give the answer, because it's very important that decisions are taken at that moment. Otherwise, we do not move forward, and that was the case before. That we were talking a lot, we didn't have clear our figures, we didn't know the source, and but now it's very important. Everyone works in the same tool, and it's enabling us very much to take decisions. And of course, as I said before, if not, it goes to the ES&OP meeting, which is also held once per month. Right? So now I will guide you through a bit of the challenges that we have today and the business complexity. So, as I already mentioned, the high rate of acquisitions has been in the past years the most complex things. We have a lot of different source systems from our factories. We have a lot of different changes in network. So yeah, we have a lot of strong buying power of the retailers. That was also a very important one. We shift from a manufacturing view, from a customer-centric view because, as I said, we are focusing now more on, we have much more business now in brands. So in our own brand, so that's why that is influencing also our supply chain in business. For instance, I'm talking about healthcare, where we are doing home deliveries. Our complexity is much higher. We don't deliver on full trucks load. We just go really into the patient. So that's really totally different business, and it's having a very much importance on our network. And we didn't have any link between our strategic and our financial plans, and a lot of different, as I said before, supply channels. And this one, you can see the last one in the slide, but from a supply point of view is one of the most complex thing and more challenging is the short of our life cycles. We need to have a very robust phase-in and phase-out process because our life cycle in average is 1 year, so it's very, very short. So we need to make sure that we manage this very well. And by having a very short life cycle, we need to have a very agile tool where we really see very easily and very fast all of our new introductions. Because if you can imagine that if you are only having a 1 year life cycle, you have continuously new materials with different concepts, different innovations. We really need to have a tool where we really manage the capacities at the level that we need. Because today the capacities, we manage at a certain level of detail, but maybe the constraints in 2 or 3 months are totally different. And this is something that today it was impossible to manage this in Excel. Okay. So these are a bit of the supply chain challenges that we also have. So we didn't have integrated data. We were doing everything in Excel. So we really put all of our capacities and our demands was all in Excel. We couldn't manage the complexity of our goods because we really had a lot of material that our demand was on a mixed article, but our capacities were on a semi-finished goods that we produce in-house, and we need to have a tool where we translate our demand of a mixed articles into the real demand on our machines. The next one is the static level of aggregation. As I said, we are in Ontex living in a very changing environment. The bottlenecks that you had 2 months ago are different than the ones you have today. So we need to make sure that we have a very agile tool when you can really change the level of detail that you want to display your data and plan capacities to. Very, very important for us. We only focus before in a very short-term view where we really used to only work on the very short-term operational issues, but now we step away from that, and now we really focus more on the mid-term and long-term. That is also very important for us because for some of our facilities, the reaction time to start up new machines or to work in weekends or stopping weekends or running one shift more or one shift less is not really flexible. So we need to make sure that we are really focusing more in the mid-term view than on a short term. That is what the RCCP is for. The link to the raw materials. We are producing baby diapers, so the cost of our raw materials in the total cost of our goods is very, very high. So it's not like a mobile phone that your cost of the raw materials is very low compared to the price of a cell phone. So for us, it's very important that we have a very good system in which we can really see our in long-term demand of our raw materials, because we are having a lot of negotiations, a lot of prices reviews, a lot of supply issues, and this is very important for us that we have this information. And this has been, and I will explain you later more in detail, has been a very important for us to step this process. As I mentioned, the increase of our brand brands. we volume-based S&OP, and we didn't have any visibility on the top and bottom line. We had a lot of different users working in Excel, and then the problem is when you work in a non-integrated tool, only one person can work at that time. And now by having new factories, new users, the amount of users over the last years has been increased a lot. So we need to have a tool where everyone can work at the same time. It sounds very easy and simple, but yeah, that's very important. And as I mentioned before, we need to have something that we can really only one tool to drive all of our S&OP meetings. So, and yeah, as I already introduced, we chose Arkieva for that, and it's really a must to bring our Ontex RCCP process into a next level of maturity. If I look at the last 5 or 4 years ago, it has been increased a lot. We are much more efficient. We improve our tools, systems a lot, but of course, together with the process, because they go hand in hand, tools and processes. So if you are lacking on one or the other, so if you implement Arkieva, but you don't define a very good process, it will not work. And if you have a very good process, but not a good tool, it will also not work. So that's why when both are coming together, that you can write the story of the success. So now I go more into the Rought Cut Capacity Planning. So here I go more in detail how we do it. So this is our main view. We call it the material balance, and I put it in the title. This is our Bible. I'm pretty sure that some of the people which are in the call will recognize some of this. So in the top part of the screen, we have the demand part, then in the middle, the supply part, and then the inventories. So what you see in the demand part, we have one snapshot of the demand in our RCCP, right? But as I already mentioned, in customers like we have top retailers as our customers like Colruyt, Tesco, Aldi, Lidl. So they're changing the demand in a constant way. We have promos, we have really our retail customers are very demanding. So we need to make sure that we also have a view on what is our daily demand. You might say, okay, but you have a demand sign off, that everything should be there. Yes, we try. We are doing, our demand planners are really doing their best, but it's not always easy. Our retailers, they're competing with each other. If one put a promo, the other one wants to follow, and everything. So we need to make sure that we also have daily updates where we can really see if something really changed because a new promo or a new forecast has been changed. We also need to adjust our system to plan the capacities with the latest information, with the most accurate information. And before, yeah, we only had one snapshot and we couldn't really see those things. And then we went to the S&OP meeting at the end of the month with some figures which were 3 weeks old. And then, yeah, you go there to a meeting with something which is too old and you say, well, but okay, this is totally useless. So that's why it's very important for us to see daily updates of the demand. There we also have what we call also data of the sales actuals, because we also want to see the evolutions of even during the month, how many things we sold. We also want to see not only the regular demand, but also the demand which is not 100% confirmed, but we also want to see that in case this is coming through, how this will affect my capacity. There we can also make transfers. So if we have dedicated machines for certain articles, we always have backups, right? So you always have a default machine where if you don't have capacity problems, you will always produce there because it's the most efficient one and the cheapest. But we also want to have backups, and in many cases when the demand goes high, we need to make some transfers from one machine to another, from one factory to another. So we need to have a tool where you can really play with the tool. What if I move this production from one place to another? what is my situation in both plants? Is my material balance perfect in both? So we need to have this as well. Then if we go to the supply part, the same. So here we put what is our maximum crude capacity, and then we put how much we plan. It's very important for us that we show in the system how much we are able to produce in case we need it, because in some machines, sometimes we don't work in weekends because it's not needed and because it's more expensive. But we also want to see that if our demand will suddenly increase in case of a certain promo or in case we gain a certain customer. So, and actually this information is very easy to maintain in Arkieva, because maybe some of you will say, oh, but yeah, that would be a lot of maintenance. No, we build up some tables which is very easy to maintain, and that's why it's not creating a lot of work for us to do that. So then we plan our production, and then we also see the production actuals, how much we produce, because there we also have weekly calls where we go through the operational topics more short term. We also use Arkieva when we want to see, okay, if a machine didn't produce as much as we were planning to, maybe we need to make a decision fast to move from production from one place to another, depending on the criticality. And then the last part is the inventory part. So here we see our projected inventory. So the inventory just the delta between what you sell and what you produce. But it's very important that we can really see what is my projection, because depending on how much volume I plan to end up, and I might need to stop lines, to put more lines, So all decisions will be driven by inventory. And we also have it in euros because there's a lot of focus now to have this in value as well. So we are reporting also, and after every RCCP cycle, we sign off also the inventory we want to end it up, because we have a very a KPI we build up also in Arkieva, because there is a lot of focus on the cash now in Ontex. So this is this is something that I put it in, highlighted it, because that's something that we didn't do before, and now we have to do it. And it took 10 minutes to add something in euros, and now we can do it. So it's very agile, very flexible, and now we can measure our inventories also in value. And then we calculate our targets. Our days on hand. So we calculate what is my future coverage month per month, and there is where we see our all of our issues. If this is a next slide with data, so here you can see what I explained. In the upper part, you see more a visual graph where you can really see if you have some problems, what is your projected inventory, if it's going sky high or it's going too low, and this is giving you the sign to do something. I will not explain what I already did, but what I want to say is that, for instance, the plant production in hours, that is in the yellow color, those cells, these are the ones that we do it in hours, because at the beginning we did it in a shift, but really the shift for one plant was 8 hours, for another one was 7 hours. So the only standard way to work on was in hours. That hopefully that was the system that every plant understood. So that's why we work in hours, and it's very flexible. If you change the hours, you can really see what is your plant production, and you can also compare with the actuals. And there you see the inventory on hand that you can easily put a certain color coding. If you go below 30 days, you can see, okay, I give you a warning with the yellow color. If you are between 30 days and 50 days, that is in our case, we give a green color, green light, fine. And if we go above 50 days of coverage for this particular category, we go to another color in blue that, okay, you really need to stop machines or try to get a new contract because your inventories are too high and you are not making finance your best friend. So that is our Bible. That is the main table that we use in Arkieva, where we have all of our RCP meetings by the third week of the month, after the demand cycle and before the S&OP meetings. These are just some examples of some KPIs that we build up from Arkieva. We have the supply bias, where all of our plant managers, they need to explain why they produce not according to plan. So here we are giving the deviations. There might be many different reasons, not only production, it can be also led by planning, but it's very important that we measure it because we need to make sure that we have the right translation from hours into pieces. So we really have a very close focus on the net NOP, we call it, so the speed of our machines, because maybe if in other businesses it's very easy to follow and it's always the same speed, but it's not in our case. In our machines, it's really person dependent. Even the weather is playing a big role. So in some cases, it sounds crazy, but it is like that. So it's very important that we follow up, because we also need to kind of forecast of our NOP. And then the inventory bias also, but the month when our RCP is finished, we freeze our inventory, and then we compare with what was the actual inventory, and then we measure it to try to improve. That is always what you do when you are measuring your KPIs. So those two KPIs have been a very step forward in our processes, because before we didn't do anything like that, and since we are improving this, measuring this, our results have been improved a lot, and I will give you some numbers later. So then I don't tell you now that you enjoy the rest of the webinar and you see it later. So here, this is our calendar. So we really define very clearly who the process step, who is the owner, and the amount of days. We have very strict calendar, and that is the only way that successful S&OP you can get. And that is why we have very, like in the demand planning cycle, we define creation of the system forecast, review the system forecast, the interaction between demand managers, key account managers. Then we need to do some very specific things of Ontex to introduce some reference materials. Yeah. And then what is important is that we also do the validation with the financial people, because there is really important that both are coming together to improve the forecast accuracy. And I will explain you later how do we do it, right? So then I will go more now into the long-term raw material process. What I explained you before, the cost of our raw materials is very high versus the total cost of our goods. So it's very important that we measure this. And how do we do this? There is something new which was not in the initial scope, but we implemented it as when we were getting to know the Arkieva tool. So we start with our demand plan. We plan our capacity. So we put, okay, this is the amount of pieces I will produce in our machine. Then I look at all the bill of materials of all the materials which are part of my demand. And then we translate all of this plant production into raw materials requirements. So we do a top down. So we look at the forecast, and then we disaggregate into the lowest level. And then we review our raw materials requirements. We do a bottom up. So all the raw material requirements are being captured at material level of the raw materials. But then when we review this with our procurement the department, we do it on a higher level, because it doesn't make sense to look at a certain material. So we do it at a supplier level, and if one supplier is managing different categories, then we also add the S&OP group level. So why did we introduce this process? Is really to identify early enough supplier issues. We had in the past a lot of issues with our suppliers that we basically couldn't see it because we didn't have any tool where we saw the long-term requirements. And believe me, to have a new supplier validated in a new factory, it can take even years. So that's why we need to be early enough to see our supplier issues to be able to maybe, go to a supplier, ask them for more capacity, and in case they don't have it, go to another supplier, make the validations, and that has been very important for us. We have a lot of out of stocks due to this topic, and that's why for us this has been a very successful thing, and we want to keep on work on that, right? Then another topic is the bridging of our financial forecast and our operational forecast. So before we were working differently. Our finance people were doing their own job. They were working in Excel. They were just doing some top-down, very high-level financial forecast. And in our case, in supply chain, we were working on an SKU level, and we were only coming together once per month. The last day of the sign-off meeting, very high level. My financial is this, my forecast is this. Okay, there was not really an alignment on that, right? So now what we are doing is we are starting from a volume forecast, and our financial forecast is built up based on the volume forecast, right? So this is also the starting point for our financial people, and we are going one step beyond, because now it's not only our supply chain people who are working in Arkieva, it's also our finance people. They are really using the tool. They are very happy with it, and we are very happy that at the end of the day, this is really important to improve our forecast accuracy and our bias. So this is a bit of the high-level process. As I said, we start with the volume plan, then the commercial controllers, they review the conversion from pieces to value. That's something that we were not doing this before, because in case you have a certain price increase, price decrease, a certain discount, before it had an influence on your total volume, but actually it was not driven by the volume, but more by the price. So now there is a certain review happening before you really look at the consolidated view. So now there is really a step in between. You review your translation from pieces to volume, and then once it's there, you start talking about your global figures. And that has been very important for us, because by doing that, we really improve our forecast a lot, because we really knew where the gap was, and before we didn't know it. If we have a gap of 500,000, we just this 500,000 was just translated directly into the pieces. But now we step back, and now we challenge our sales prices, and then we look at the forecast. And this has been one step forward, and also the functionality of Arkieva has been also very well integrated in our finance community. So if you go to so here, for instance, what we do in this new functionality, we do top-down adjustments. So yeah, if we need to change certain forecasts for a certain product group, not going to material, is very easy. So we don't need to really go work on a down level or on a top level. We can be flexible on that. We have very dynamic reports. As you can see on the right side of the screen, we build up some measures to compare sales outlook with the invoice quantity versus budget. So all of this information, if someone from the finance community is in here, they will recognize them, and that has been very important for us when you really compare with the budget or with your actuals. It's very important finance have this in mind, because they might have some information that is not captured in the forecast, and it needs to be reflected in the volume, right? So then the next topic is the long-term demand planning. That's also a new process that we split up in Arkieva, because before Arkieva we were not having 18 months forecast. So now every quarter we do long-term demand planning. So the process, so we really look at 18 months. And why do we do that? To create business cases to phase in or phase out machines. One of them, the one in September, is the input for our yearly financial budget. And it's also used, as I said, for our long-term raw materials planning, because based on that, our purchasers, they are making contracts with our suppliers. And as I said, we do this every quarter. These are some demand types. We have the regular demand, which is obviously the biggest chunk, but we also we have gains, risk, opportunities more on a long term, but these are very important, and that is the most difficult part, that we need to have the buy-in from our sales and marketing the department to bring this information, because based on this information we really finally we had our capex and we start our business cases early enough before we really had issues with our capacity, because we were not fast enough to the markets, right? So, and this is how do we do it. So we build up these different scenarios. We have our confirmed the demand, and then we also have the non-confirmed demand, where we put a certain likelihood which enables us to run different supply scenarios, and then we bring this information to our S&OP meetings, where we say, okay, look, if the likelihood, if all your demand, which is not confirmed, with the likelihood of X percent will come through, that will be our situation. We will need X machines, or we will need to stop certain machines, because we also put it on for losses and threats. So that is really an agile system which enables us to move forward and to really have a very balanced and secure plan to avoid out of stock or having too much inventories. Okay. So the impact of Arkieva, how important Arkieva has been for us. Now I hope that now with all the words that I gave to you, that those figures will not be surprise to you. So we improved the supply plan accuracy by 15%, because, as I said, we started measuring. We have a very good system where we put all the input there. We also reduce our amount of obsolete, because in our S&OP process is very robust. As I said, our life cycle of our products is very short. So we have a very robust process where we put some root cause analysis. We have all these obsoletes now are really sales and marketing are accountable for that. So that was the most important step forward, and then as of then we are taking this much more serious, which led of a reduction of 30%. We also improve our focus accuracy, because when we have our alignment with finance, we really now we focus on, okay, this has been led by sales prices, this by driven by volume. So that's why this reduction. The planning horizon has been increased by 18 months. So as I said, very important for us when we are talking about CapEx and we are talking about long-term supplier issues and so on. Better integration with finance. So we need to have a system which was enabling finance people to also work in the system. The Kiba tool is very friendly. It's very easy to navigate, very easy to customize. You can create your own reports. And that was very important to have. At the beginning of the project, we were talking about 30 users. Now we are above 100 users. So the usage of Arkieva has increased much more than we ever expected, and we are very happy with it. So Arkieva now is as critical as our ERP system. So you can imagine this. So we have much more. We improved our reaction time to our supply issues, as I already explained. We have all the information available in one place, also very important. We don't need to work with Excels offline, which are in a certain mailbox of a certain person. It's just one system, and this is really very important for us. Then in the Arkieva journey, our developers with our business people have been working very closely together, which has been also the key for the success, because both of them were working together. The IT people were also very functional, always challenging our needs, and also in our case, explaining very patiently all of our needs. And that's why we come up with a tool that is very friendly, and we didn't implement everything that all the users wanted. We needed to be very conscious, because now we need also, sometimes we need to manage all the expectations, and by having that, we didn't create a monster. We created something very flexible. We certain, you always need certain things which are really focused for Ontex. You customize certain things, but yeah, we really try to focus as much as possible in the out-of-the-box solution. And yeah, as I said, the agility for our S&OP meetings has been increased a lot. It's really our decision-making forum, and that's really important when you want to move forward with the business. The next steps, and I will be very briefly on that because I want to give some time for questions. So we want to have an integrated RCCP process for raw materials, because now we do this in Excel, but having the success that we're having with this process, we also want to have it in Arkieva. So as I already explained. And then the next step is also to work more on the scenario management, to have a much more professional way to really look at your scenarios. If you put, each problem, you can have multiple solutions, and you need to look at from the financial way, from every different angle, and that's why it's very important that we have a tool where you can really play with them, and you can compare, and you can make decisions to bring them to the S&OP meetings. And I think that is the end of the presentation.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Lucio. A very nice presentation, very understandable and recognizable, I think, for a lot of the attendees. They can probably relate themselves or their organization to some parts of the challenges you have at Ontex, and recognize the journey you guys have made. Already one question came in. Feel free, everyone, to throw questions at me and Lucio. The first question here is, do you need a supply plan on SKU level to calculate your raw materials planning?
But we do our supply planning, we do it on a machine level, but then we take the assumption that we produce proportionally according to the forecast. So we don't do our supply planning on a material level, because that would be an overkill, but we just take an assumption, because anyway, when we look at our raw material, the requirements, as I already mentioned, we do it bottom up, so we don't need to have the SKU. So that's why we do a pro rata based on the forecast, and then we translate into the SKU, and then we do a bottom up to look at the supplier level. I hope I answered the question.
I think it's clear, yeah. When we implement Arkieva, it's very important that the people understand that we will resemble the hierarchy they have within their product structure, and Arkieva will have the same hierarchy. So basically, you can change the level of detail and aggregation you're looking at with one mouse click or two mouse clicks, and then it depends on the type of person you are and what you want to do, on which level you look. I think there are more questions coming in. So how long did the entire implementation took is the next question that came in.
Yeah, so the Arkieva journey is not even yet finished, but the basic RCP in total, it took 4 months, the basic RCP, but of course we kept on improving making improvements, because one thing is that what we put in our blueprint, I was very clear, that was very successful, and it took 4 months, but now we keep on improving the system, because it's very easy to make some customization, but I would say that, you know, it always depends on the complexity on the business, of how much you want to iterate. But in our case, that was the time that it took.
Indeed, yeah, we always recommend to create a sort of innovation budget in the project, and also file that in your capex for the coming years, so that you can maintain the tool and keep it up to speed with your changing business environment. So that's something we always recommend, to have a sort of innovation budget for the next years, let's say. Another question: when in the process, plus who decides to include non-confirmed demand in the RCCP?
That's a very good question. Yeah, it took some time to implement this process, but this is part of the long-term demand. So we don't look at 18 months every month, but we do it every quarter. And we have a very clear process in which our sales community, marketing community, and demand managers are sitting together once per month, and they are giving the best estimate. Because it's very important that in our S&OP meetings, when we are doing this review, we only not look at the we need to look at the unconstrained demand. So that's why we do this every quarter, and all the main stakeholders are there, which are marketing, supply chain, and sales.
Another question is very short. How many SKUs do you have to manage? So basically, a question related to data volumetry.
Yeah, 6,000.
6,000. So,
but the complexity is the life cycle.
Indeed, and the large amount of customers as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay. Another question that already came in was like, can you give a certain or a specific example on where having an RCCP tool and process made a difference in a business decision, or a certain critical moment in time?
Yeah, for instance, one of our product groups, the demand was increasing tremendously, but that was only on a certain part of our business. So we needed to have a quick reaction to see, okay, the demand was dropping in one sector, but increasing in another sector. So we saw this in our demand and our supply, and then we could make some transformations of our machinery without having a crazy increase of capex to have a new machine. But we could convert certain machines. So we could only see that in our RCCP process. So we needed to have really a new machine. We just needed to convert some machines into another. That was a very important thing that we didn't just not think twice before we were invested in new capex. We just look at the system and we challenge all the different figures, and then we come up with this solution through the system.
I see another question came in. Do you measure demand accuracy value-based and or volume-based?
In our case, we do it value-based, because we have femcare and adult care. So if we do it on volume, if we do it in pieces, the weight of our femcare will be much higher than one of Inco. So to put them all together, because we measure our focus accuracy on the sales dimension, which is business unit and customer, we need to put it in euros. But the main reason is that we want to group all different product groups, and that's why we do it in value.
Okay, I see it's time to end up here. Once again, Lucio, thanks for coming over and sharing your experiences here with everyone. So that's it for today. We will send out the recording to all the persons who registered, and thanks again, and see you on our next webinar.
Thank you.